To hear them.
That concludes the statement, and we now come on to the Select Committee statement on behalf of the Defence Committee. Mrs Emma Lewell-Buck will speak for up to 10 minutes, during which no interventions may be taken. At the conclusion of her statement, I will call members to ask questions on the subject of the statement. These should be brief questions and not full speeches. I emphasise that questions should be directed to the Select Committee member, not the relevant government minister, and front benchers may take part in questioning. I call Mrs Emma Lewell-Buck.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And now for an entirely different note, it is a pleasure to present this report today on behalf of the Defence Committee. Yeah. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's important at the outset to say that our report is not focused on the ethical questions that using artificial intelligence in defence raises. That is because the noble lords in the other place completed a very in-depth committee report into AI in weapons systems prior to our inquiry. In that report, they rightly addressed issues of safety, compliance with international law, and the need for a human in the loop. It is also important to say that the key defence documents we refer to throughout our report were produced under the previous government. However, we have not received an indication from the current government that they will be making any significant major departures from these documents. Our focus was on trying to understand what the Ministry of Defence is doing in this area and how they can develop a successful defence AI sector in the UK. Since 2018, AI has been appearing increasingly in defence documents, as well as being spoken about by ministers and senior military figures. The Defence Artificial Intelligence and Autonomy Unit and the Defence AI Centre have since come into being, and the Defence Artificial Intelligence Strategy was published in 2022. Our strong research pedigree in computer science and availability of computing power could put the UK at a strong advantage. And Pillar 2 of our AUKUS partnership continues to present opportunities for working with our allies and interoperability. Overall, though, we found that despite this, there is a say-do gap where the department is identifying the right priorities, but they have been unable to say what steps they will take to achieve them. Rhetoric does not match reality. This leaves us behind our allies and disadvantaged when it comes to our adversaries. Similarly, the department's aim to be AI ready is something we considered problematic. Technology is evolving at such a rapid pace, and the MOD will never be sufficiently AI ready. Instead, it should be aiming to be AI native, whereby AI is no longer viewed as a niche add-on, but a core component running right through defence. This will take leadership, cultural and practical changes. AI is a general-purpose technology, and although we don't have a clear idea of the size of our defence AI sector, what we do know is that it is young and underdeveloped, and that many of the companies who supply defence in the future are likely to cut across the civilian and the military sector. For the MOD to give these less traditional companies and investors any confidence and incentivise them to do business with the MOD, they need to be clear on what it is they want. They need to show more flexibility, be less prescriptive in requirements, address delays in security clearances, and fully embrace the recommendation from the Haythornthwaite Review, where the brightest minds can zigzag between the military and the commercial civilian sector. The MOD, when it comes to new capabilities, is not comfortable with rapid change, risk or experimentation. Yet this is exactly how our tech companies and startups operate. The MOD's existing approach of contracting with primes, spending 10 to 15 years building a ship, tank or aircraft to exquisite specifications, just does not cut it in an increasingly data and software-driven environment. Whilst the GCAP programme is designed with an open system architecture where software capabilities can be plugged in and out of the hardware, and the new spiral model of overall defence procurement in the integrated procurement model are welcome, our committee found no evidence of fundamental changes across the organisation. For these smaller, innovative companies to engage with the MOD must be a better customer. Key to developing our defence AI ecosystem is the digital infrastructure, yet the department's plan for a digital backbone is behind schedule in data collection, labelling and sharing, which are all key to training defence AI models, must be improved. Clarity of leadership and responsibility is also needed. The DAIC is headed by a one-star officer, and we remain unclear where the centre is actually based. There's fragmentation across the MOD, where the frontline commands of each service all have individual responsibility for AI development. This causes confusion and duplication. Madam Deputy Speaker, Ukraine has shown us that AI is changing the battlefield. AI has the potential to transform UK defence from the back office to the front line. In such a rapidly developing environment, we can't predict what will come next, but what we do know for certain is that our allies and our adversaries are using and developing AI for military advantage. We remain hopeful that the Strategic Defence Review, the Government's focus today on AI, and by adopting our recommendations, that the Department will start to turn their rhetoric into a reality, so that they are doing more than they are saying. Before I finish, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to acknowledge what a team effort producing this report has been. I want to thank the previous committee, many of whom, despite our political differences, I became firm friends with and dearly miss. I also want to thank the new committee, who have worked very hard to finalise this report. I also want to thank everyone who has engaged with us, including the MOD and the previous Minister, who's in his place on the shadow front bench, our excellent committee staff, especially George James, who managed the inquiry, and Professor Kenneth Payne, our very knowledgeable expert advisor to the inquiry. I look forward, Madam Deputy Speaker, to taking any questions from right honourable and honourable members, and I sincerely hope they like the answers that they get.
Madam Minister James Cartlidge.
Can I say an excellent report, and I'm very grateful for her comments, recognising obviously my role there, the integrated procurement model and a lot of the work we did in government. But she's right, this is an area of technology that's changing at extraordinary speed. It's having real impact on the live battlefront in Ukraine. Just two specific points, if I may. First of all, she said that it was the House of Lords Committee that looked at the ethical issues. I would urge the committee not to ignore those, because my view is we need to retain maximum freedom of operation and not be bound by, for example, new definitions of autonomy that may limit our military capabilities. But specifically on the very good point about SMEs that may be in the civil area not involved in defence, we all agree we want to get them more involved in the defence side. But can I ask her to look at the issue of how we share information, particularly at secret, with SMEs as well as the primes, because this was something we were making progress on when I was at the department, and perhaps with the committee's help we can look at those case studies where civil companies have come in and made it successful getting the defence sector by having that strong link in right into the centre of the MOD.
Lewell-Buck.
Thank the right honourable member for that question. I couldn't agree with him more. There is a section in our report that addresses quite in detail SMEs, their engagement with the department, and the work that the right honourable member did when he was in government is something that I think we should be carrying forward, especially in the integrated procurement model.
Singh, Chair of the Select Committee.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to place on record my gratitude to my honourable friend, the member for South Shields, for chairing the subcommittee, members of the previous committee, and indeed the Defence Committee staff for all of their hard work on our report on artificial intelligence, a matter so integral to our nation's defence. While I welcome the Prime Minister's announcement today on embracing AI within government, does my honourable friend agree that there seems to be a chasm between the Ministry of Defence's rhetoric versus the reality, where in practice it's still treated as a novelty rather than as a fundamental part of the Defence's toolkit?
Lewell-Buck.
I thank my honourable friend, the chair of our committee, for his question and all of his work in getting our report to publication. And he is right to highlight this gap between what the MOD wants to do and how they plan to achieve it ran through our entire report, and it is something that the MOD needs to get a handle on. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that by implementing our recommendations, the department can move to a position where AI is threaded through the organisation as a whole, as opposed to being a niche add-on and some novelty that defence does.
Yeah.
Sir Julian Lewis.
Military history books are full of examples of the difficulty that defence scientists had in selling their revolutionary ideas to military chiefs and civil servants. Given the nebulous nature of artificial intelligence, was the subcommittee satisfied that there is a specialist cadre within the Ministry of Defence that is intellectually equipped to make appropriate assessments of schemes that are put forward for new weapons systems?
Yeah.
Emma Lewell-Buck.
Thank the right honourable member for that question. One of the difficulties that we found was that not all of the information that the committee wanted was readily available to us. We don't still yet have a clear picture of exactly what is happening in the MOD when it comes to artificial intelligence. What we are recommending is that there is more clarity, that the department is more clear about the skill sets that it needs and about the gaps that are there, so that we can then look to implementing those recommendations from the Haythornthwaite review, where we have those who do have the knowledge and do have the expertise can zigzag in and out of the department.
We now come to the...
Madam Deputy Speaker, apologies for being a little on the late side on that one. Can I commend the work of the Defence Select Committee? I think the report that we've heard today is so important, given where, particularly some of the news that we've seen coming from Ukraine in the last few years and the way that that conflict has developed. I think one of the things for me that's come out so clearly is the need to be on the cutting edge of all this. Now, the UN this year declared 2025 to be the International Year of Quantum. Does she think that actually the developments that she's talking about in this statement lend additional credence to the importance of that statement and of bringing those cutting edge developments to our defence capabilities?
Emma Lewell-Buck.
Thank the honourable member for that question, and I couldn't agree with him more. And what today's announcement from the government has shown is that the government is taking AI and its potential very seriously. And our committee report shows that there are steps they can take when it comes to defence to make sure that the department is more AI native and has defence running through it.
Richard Foord.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And the development of defence technology throughout the decades has been bound by international law, at least since 1945. I understand that the Defence Committee has taken the view that it won't be informed by law or ethics, but I wonder whether there will be some work done in the future to bring together the House of Lords report in 2023 and the work that this Defence Committee has done so expertly this time.
Emma Lewell-Buck.
Thank the honourable member for that question, and he is indeed right to raise this. We very much took note of our Noble Lord's report. It is also referenced in our final inquiry report. And we do urge progress, but we urge progress in AI and defence on the understanding that it will be always done in line with a strong ethical and accountable framework and with a human in the loop.
Helen Maguire.
Thank you so much for the report, and it was helpful to understand about the Lord's report. And I wondered if the government could outline the timetable for, or if you knew when that ethical and moral report would be considered and incorporated into government policy. And also further to that, I wondered if the honourable member could outline how effectively the MOD would be working with international companies, because obviously it's an incredibly complex area, to make sure that the maximum, the risk of security risk is massively reduced.
Emma Lewell-Buck.
Thank the honourable member for that question. The Honourable Member is, of course, asking me for things that are outside the scope of our report and also asking questions of government. I am here, Madam Deputy Speaker, today speaking on behalf of our committee. It's way above my pay grade to start answering for our government.
Go on.
But the Honourable Member does raise an important point with regards to the Lord's report. I believe the previous government already responded to the report in the Lords. But as with everything we do in defence, Madam Deputy Speaker, we will do it in line with our allies, we will do it in line with NATO, and we will continue to work with our allies on GCAP and the AUKUS partnership to make sure that everything we do together, not in isolation.
Derek Twigg.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I congratulate my honourable friend on what is truly an excellent report, and the leadership that she showed throughout in terms of dealing with the witnesses and the evidence that came forward, for actually compiling the report together. And obviously, as she rightly said, she was helped very, very closely and very strongly with some excellent people from our staff on the Defence Committee. And I've got to say, the Defence Committee I served on in the last Parliament was probably the best committee that I'd been a member of in terms of the commitment and the knowledge of individual, of which my honourable friend was one of those, that had of defence issues and which we were able to put to good use. And I think she also referred to the fact that despite differences of parties, actually on that committee we were very united in taking issues forward and holding ministers to account, which I'm sure the new committee will do exactly the same. And it's really great that the new chair is here today to support it and ensure that we got this report out in a timely and good manner. Now, my honourable friend will know probably, I think, the issues I'm going to raise. One is in terms of the fact that AI and what's happening in the defence field is moving so rapidly at the moment and changes almost by the week or month. And would she agree that it really is important that the MOD and those involved in defence harness that change quickly and keep on top of that and ensure that we are leading the field in the area of AI and not following all the time? I think that's really important. The other point I recall we had a discussion on during the session was the importance of SMEs and small firms, startups, and harnessing their talent and potential and making sure that we use that in the UK for the benefits of our armed forces and developing the best possible defence for our country. I'd be very grateful for my honourable friend if she was able to answer some of those questions.
Emma Lewell-Buck.
I thank my right honourable friend for those comments and for all his help on the committee. It is an absolute joy to be once again serving on the Defence Committee with my right honourable friend. He is correct that AI is moving rapidly and the MOD do need to harness it quickly because our adversaries are. We know from some open source data in other areas that it is something that we cannot allow to be behind the curve on. And when it comes to SMEs, they have a particular mindset, my honourable friend will know, where they are happy to have that feel first and experimental mindset that often the MOD is not used to, which is why in our report we again highlight that significant cultural change and leadership is needed in the MOD to get it to a position where those SMEs can work better with it for the benefit of our entire